The next tab that I will go over is going to be the Students tab on the left-hand side. Under the Students tab, you can edit the information or the settings for your student check-in. I will first go over the dark blue tabs at the top here. The first tab is going to be your Add, Edit, Delete button, where you can add, edit, or delete your students. To do that, you just click on this Add, Edit, Delete. If you do already have students in there, you will see a list of your students. You can click on the pencil and paper next to each student to edit their information or delete them. Or you can add a new student by clicking on Add Student and filling in the information here. As a reminder, anything with an asterisk is a required field, so please go ahead and fill this out. After you've done that, go ahead and click on Save Changes at the bottom. Okay, let's go ahead and go back to the Students tab here. The next tab is going to be your early dismissal excuses and your tardy excuses. If you would like to edit these excuses, you can click on either of these next two tabs. For example, tardy excuses, and you'll see that we have some default ones here. You will need to select the school first, and you can edit these excuses or delete them. If we click on back here, the early dismissal excuses are the same. You can delete them through here or change the order that they're seen in by clicking the arrows here. Okay, we can go ahead and go back. The next tab is going to be Delete Recent ID Badges. You can delete these for your students. The next two tabs are going to be your Edit or Delete Recent Tardies and Recent Dismissals. To do this, you will click on either of these tabs, and you can add a new student tardy excuse here. If you already have students checked in as tardy, they will be found at the bottom here, and you can edit those, such as editing the time that they came in or the purpose, or you can delete them as well. To add a new tardy excuse, maybe a student forgot to check in, you will just need to select the student here, select the purpose, and then the time and the date that they came in or out. After you're done, go ahead and click on Save Changes. You can only make changes to these records within 5 days of checking a student in or checking a student out. After that, it does become permanent on the reports. The last tab that we have at the bottom here is going to be your ISS detention excuses. If you are keeping track of ISS detentions, you will want to edit the excuses under ISS detention excuses. You will just need to click on this pencil and paper to edit the excuse, or you can click on Add to add more. At the bottom here, we have some printing and display options for your students. You can have excuses be given for tardy students and the self-checkout as well. This will require that an excuse or a purpose be selected. You can also print duplicate passes if you do want records to be kept in the front office or wherever at the school. The next few things are going to be your printing options. You can print excused or unexcused on late and tardy passes. You can print excused or unexcused on early dismissal passes. You can print the teacher name on early dismissal passes. You can print the teacher name on late and tardy passes. You can also print the student ID number on passes and print the student ID number on temporary ID badges. You can also print barcodes on temporary ID badges and print pictures on passes and ID badges for students. If you are going to be using a barcode scanner for your student check-in, Please select yes next to use barcode scanner for student check-in. The barcode check-in will not work unless you have this selected. You can enable the Hall Pass option under the Students tab here by clicking on yes. This will allow you to select Student Hall Pass in the school check-in program and print out a Hall Pass for your students. The next option is your package drop-off. If you select yes, you can choose what type of paper you would like to print the package drop-off pass on. We have the continuous white paper or the peel and stick badges. This works if you have something that needs to be dropped off to students, such as a lunch or a sweater. You can put a pass or a peel and stick badge on it so that it can be dropped off to the student later. The next setting is going to be your student activity check-in and check-out option. If you select yes here and go back down, you will be able to set up an after-school activity check-in and check-out. This is only used for after-school activities. This is not used as a normal check-in and check-out, so please make sure you only use this for after-school activities. You can select to use the check-in purpose for the student activity. You can also use the checkout purpose. And if you are using it for an after-school program, you can click on Setup. And this will allow you to set up the after-school program hourly rate. You will just need to put the hourly rate in the first box here. The second box, you need to put the days to pay. And this is depending on what your school goes by. The third part here, you need to select the after-school office close time. So we have here the hour and the minutes, and then AM or PM. And the box next to that, you have to put the amount for the late pickup penalty charge. You can also select to block the admission if it's not paid. And you can have this printed either on the Dymo printer or from a report printer that has been set up, or you can also select none. After you have set this up, you can just click on done or save changes. This takes you back to the students menu here. The next option is going to be the signature requirement for student after school. The signature requirement only works if you have the signature pad purchased. You can also print the school logo or mascot on the ID badge. The next option is track students late to class. This will allow you to set up a class schedule so you can check in students more than one time. If you do have multiple classes throughout the day or multiple periods, you are able to click on Manage Class Schedules on the right-hand side here. Just note that you do need to select yes and click on Save Changes first. This will allow you to add up to 12 schedule items for the school. So for example, you can put period 1, and then you will need to select the hour here and the minutes, and then AM or PM, and then click on save. And I'll go ahead and add a period 2. So by setting up this class schedule, you are able to track if students are late to class because they are supposed to check in more than one time. So if we click on back here, it takes you back to the Students menu. The next thing that we have is the Students Plus late tardy options. If you select yes and then click on Save Changes at the bottom, it will give you the advanced options on the side here. The Students Plus late and tardy options allows you to put a specific amount of late and tardies that are allowed. If you click on advanced options here, you're able to first set up the semester or grading period. You will need to put the first day of school and the last day here. You will then need to select a time period, and this is if you're doing tracking by days. If you're doing semester or grade, you will want to click on semester grade period, and it will actually track it by semester. So again, first you put the first day of school and the last day, and then you set up your semesters here, the starting date and the ending date. It needs to be in month, day, year format. Under that, we have the allowed late and tardies. So if your school allows one, and that's a warning, you need to put the warning in the discipline action area here. Another example is the second allowed late and tardy is a second warning. And the third allowed late and tardy would be like a detention. Once you've set up your Students Plus options here, you have some extra settings at the bottom. You can click on late tardy pass options, and this will give you printing options for your late and tardy passes. For example, you can print the late and tardy passes. You can print it with a student ID or a teacher's name, or even a student ID barcode if you are using the barcode scanner. You can also print it with a student's picture. And on the late and tardy passes, you can have the detention warning on there, or you can have it not print the detention warning. You can also select if the exceeding threshold will or may result in detentions being issued for the student. And after you're done, go ahead and click on Save Changes. The other setting that we have here at the bottom is your detention notice options. You can have the detention notice pass print for the student. You can add the student's name to the detention or ISS. You can print it with the student's ID number or the teacher's name. You can even print it with the student ID barcode if you are using a barcode scanner. And you can also print the student's picture on there. And these are for the detention notice passes. Once you've made your changes, go ahead and click on Save. And this will take you back to the previous page that we were just on. Now you can also set up alert notifications for these allowed late and tardies. All you have to do is click on Alert Notification. You're able to alert the admin on the left-hand side, or you can alert the parents and guardians on the right-hand side. To alert the admin, you do need to check the box next to each one here. If you are trying to alert the admin for late and tardies, you only want to check the box next to late and tardy. If you're going to do it for the early dismissals, you want to check the box next to early dismissals. You can also do the late and tardy and early dismissal total combined. On the right hand side here, we have the parent alert notifications. If you want the parents and guardians to be alerted for the late and tardies, you can select yes or no here. If you select yes, it will alert the parent or guardian whenever they exceed the threshold. If you select all, it will alert the parent and guardian every time they have a late and tardy or early dismissal. In the box below each one, you will need to put the email template, and then if you are wanting to alert admin, you will need to put their email addresses in this box here at the bottom. Once you are done making those changes, you will just click on Save Changes. And this will take you back to the Students tab here that we have. So the next setting that we have is your Students Plus for early dismissal. If you select yes and then click on Save Changes at the bottom, you will be able to see the advanced options next to that. If you click on advanced options, it will look similar to the late and tardy advanced options for Students Plus. So first you want to set up your semester grading period or if you are tracking by days, you can click on days here. So for this one, I will show you the days tracking. So first you need to set up the first day of school and the last day of school. And then you will need to select a time period, which is the amount of days. And then you have to fill in the allowed early dismissals here and the disciplinary action that goes along with it. Make sure you do it for the early dismissal section here in the middle. So it'll be these 5 boxes. After you're done setting that up, you can set up some extra settings at the bottom here, such as the early dismissal pass options. If you click on this, this will give you the pass options for the early dismissal, such as printing the early dismissal pass. You can print it with the student's ID or the teacher's name. If you're using a barcode scanner, you can print it with the student ID barcode, and you can also print it with the student's picture on there. You can choose to print the detention warning on the passes as well. And for the last part here, you can choose if the exceeding threshold will or may result in the detention being issued to the student. After you've made your changes, go ahead and click on Save, and this will take you back to the previous page that we were just on. Now if you scroll all the way down again to the settings, you're able to change the settings for the alert notifications. This was the same as the late and tardy students plus options that we just did. So to set up the alert notifications, you will just need to click on alert notification, and if you want to set up the alert notifications for admin, just make sure the boxes next to each one are selected. If you're going to do only the late and tardy, then make sure only the late and tardy box here is selected. And then you want to also add the admin emails at the bottom here in this last box. If you're wanting to alert parents, you want to make sure that you select yes or all. Yes would mean that they only get alerted when they exceed the threshold that you have set up. And all means that they get alerted every time there is a late and tardy or early dismissal. In the box below those options, you want to put the email template. And just note that for parents and guardians to get alerted, you do have to have the parent and guardian's emails when you import them. So once you've made your changes here, you just want to click on Save Changes. And this will take you back to the Students tab that we were just on. And we're going to scroll all the way down here and go to the next setting that you can change. The next 2 settings are signature requirements for check-in and check-out. This does require that you have a signature pad. If you do have a signature pad and you want to turn these on, go ahead and select Yes and then click on Save Changes at the bottom. The next setting is going to be your grade, class, or homeroom requirement. When students check in, it doesn't require that they select a grade, class, or homeroom. However, if you select Yes here and click on Save Changes, it will require that they select their grade, class, or homeroom first before selecting their name from the list. If you are using a touchscreen, you can turn this next setting on. It's called the Display Limited Pick List. This will limit the amount of names that the students can see when they're trying to check in or out. They will only be able to see their own name once they start typing in their last name. The next setting is going to be your early dismissal sign out. After that, we have the enter adult name for student checkout. If you are using the checkout that just requires you to select the student's name, you are able to enter an adult name using the keyboard by selecting this. You can also enter the adult name for student late or tardy. This will allow you to manually enter the name using your keyboard for the late and tardy check-in. The last option that we have at the bottom is going to be the manual entry of student IDs. If your students are using student IDs and you don't want them to check in using their name or looking for their name in the list, then you can simply have them manually enter their student IDs in order to check in. this will be the only way that they can check in. If you do select yes here, they will no longer be able to access that list of names. Once you've made your changes, make sure you always click on Save Changes at the bottom. And that concludes this video. To access additional videos, please visit us at schoolcheckin.com.